I've shot underwater all over the world now, and water actually is a lot easier to shoot than over water as far as lighting goes. So I could get down there, shoot for like maybe 15 seconds, and then I need to start heading back up because it takes about 45 seconds to get down, 45 seconds to get up.
Are you ready? Hi there, I'm Robbie, and you're watching or listening to the Lost Creator Podcast, a show where we interview some of the most unique and influential people in the content creation world in the hopes of inspiring you to escape the 9-to-5 and live out your dreams. And joining me today, we have Christian. Thank you for joining us. And
hi,
how's it going? And Josiah, you're right there, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
This sparkling water is really nice.
Here to tell us all about a very unique niche that that Josiah's tapped into, which is underwater photography. But Josiah, I'd really love for you to tell us more about it from your perspective.
Underwater photography?
Like under photography, but
it's
under the water
in liquid. It's really nice.
Can I preface something before we jump into this?
Yes.
He is, no joke, one of the best underwater photographers. You are literally like half fish, and you are so first of all, underwater photography is very difficult. So when you see a beautiful photo like this, a video like this, and a photo like this, you might think to yourself, "Wow, that's beautiful." But what you don't see is a complexity. So you are in the presence of one of the top underwater photographers, videographers. So buckle your seats and start saving, because the underwater housing is going to break your bank.
Man, I'm about to disappoint y'all a lot after that. After that build up. So
tell us about it. Like, what got you into underwater shooting?
Sure. So
did you fall in? Did you just?
So I went. I moved to Hawaii for college, and I was pretty broke, and started spearfishing while I was there. I still do, but at the time
I meant the broke part.
Oh, the broke. Yeah. Well, that's to be continued.
And the spearfishing was as an activity, a hobby, or was it?
Well, so when I was broke, so it's kind of what I would do on the side to eat. so I got really into diving. I just, like, when I moved from Hawaii, I kind of lost that part of my life. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I remember during that time I was doing photography, and remember seeing other people doing underwater photos, and remember telling myself, like, oh, like, I'll never be able to afford that. Like, that would be really sick, but that's just so out of the range of what I'm capable of doing as far
like the
housing.
How much is it?
And I mean, housings can they're usually more expensive than the camera. And they can range anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
But I need to stop drinking this. Over time, I was able to afford one, and particularly like at the start of COVID, I just didn't. I was feeling a bit burnt out with what I was doing. And so started getting in the water a lot more just to dive. It wasn't even for photography in specific. And then really got reestablished my love for the water. And then got a housing, started shooting. And it was really cool because it's completely different, and it reinvigorated my love. Man, so guests. This is so hard.
Sparkling water is such a good thing for guests.
I'm so glad there's not a mic on my ass right now, because I farted like 4 times.
Stop drinking it. It's not going to help.
Oh man. So anyways,
let me ask you, like, what are you currently shooting with underwater?
So I use a R5 in the water with a naughty cam housing. When the R5s first came out, there was actually a big thing about, you shouldn't shoot R5 in the water because of overheating. Like, they were having a big overheating problem. But I have not a single time, and I've only shot with the R5 for the last like year and a half in the water, and I've not had a single problem with it. So it's a really amazing camera to use.
Yeah,
for the water.
And like before that, I think you were in the same one I'm currently using, which is a 1DX combo with the Delkin, is it? Or no, the
you have an Aquatech.
Aquatech, okay, yeah.
I hate the Aquatech.
That is
not to bring you down, but
you did kill my buzz a little bit, but like it's the worst.
Okay, so
it's so bulky and so hard to shoot with.
Okay, I would say, well, So the Aquatech, the reason I don't like it, it actually is very useful for a specific type of underwater photography, and that's surf photography. So it's made for surf photography. So if you're a surf photographer, it's actually very good. But if you're going for like depth, which I don't think you can take the Aquatech more than like 15 feet or like 7 meters or something along those lines, and you can actually hear the housing start crackling if you go anything further than that. So it's not made. It's what it's made for, right? It's made for surf photography. It's made to be kind of robust and light. Because compared to most other housings, the Aquatech actually is quite light. Like the housing that I have probably weighs double or triple what an Aquatech would weigh.
And just for a moment, let's like scale back on the actual technicality of the sort of brands and I'd like to know, actually, before even going into the photography aspect of it, I'd like to know a little bit more about the actual diving parts. Obviously, you'll be doing, depending on the type of shoot, you'll actually either be doing some sort of level of free diving or you'll be scuba. So talk us through that a little bit as well.
It differs. So I actually really enjoy free diving, and I was a free diver before I was an underwater photographer. So a lot of it has to do with time. So if like, for example, I did a short film, and I almost completely shot the short film while I was scuba diving, except for a few scenes. And the reason for that was so I could stay in place and be in one place and get the shots that I needed to get, in a video format. And we shot 75% of the film at 30 meters, which is like 100 feet. So it makes it a lot more difficult to do that free diving because you need the time to be. And able to be
your actor, he has no scuba tank,
right? So so our actors Chelsea and Sam, who did an incredible job. I mean, this is really technical and like goes into the line of like, I have to say, like, don't try it at home in the sense of like a lot could go very wrong, but we were fortunate enough to have like a pretty big team on that shoot, so we had a lot of safety divers and stuff. So, but we would go down, take off their tanks, and then we would feed them oxygen between takes. And so that's how we were basically able to stay down there and do the shots that we needed to do.
So they never had to resurface. They stayed down the whole time. They
stayed down the whole time. That video in specific was very interesting because we only had, you only get a max bottom time at 30 meters of like, because we all had each one tank. So our max bottom time each day was 20 minutes. And you can't do another dive at that depth for that amount of time. So we'd have to wait a full another day before we could film 20 minutes again. So it ended up being like 8 days of filming and 20 minutes each day. So we were filming like 2 to 3 scenes each day. So it ended up being this like really slow, like grueling process. So like, just like imagine like you're doing a video and you can only do 3 shots for the video per day. And it's kind of stressful because you're like on a time limit. It's like, oh, are we going to
people can die.
And people could die.
It's a really rubbish time to find out that you left the lens cap on.
Exactly. So,
or dust on the lens. Or something.
But yeah, it ended up working out. And a lot of that was because of the incredible team we had. But yeah, to answer your question, like, some stuff can be super technical, like the scuba dives. Usually I prefer free diving. I have a lot more mobility in the water. Like, let's say my positioning is off. It's really easy for me to get into a better position. I use scuba diving primarily for like really, really set up scenes and shots that are a bit deeper that it would be harder for me and the model to get to and have at least a minute to shoot. Most of the shooting that I do is around 50 feet, 40, 50 feet. And for that, I almost always free dive. And we'll have, it's also very dependent on the model that you're shooting with. But you'll have anywhere from, 45 seconds to a minute and a half to where you're in the spot that you need to be, get your stuff, head back up, see if it looks good.
You're free diving to 40, 50.
Yeah.
And I could a spotter there with oxygen for you, or you're just constantly resurfacing? No,
you're just constantly so that's free diving. That's scuba wild diving depth. Would be the. Oh, I mean,
especially 50, with the housing and like.
Well, I mean, like right now, I can comfortably get to about 100 and do a shoot if I need to
without a tank.
Without a tank, but the problem is it's like you get down there, it's a lot darker.
Yeah,
it's a lot like so I could get down there, shoot for like maybe 15 seconds, and then I need to start heading back up because it takes about 45 seconds to get down, 45 seconds to get up. It's like in that range.
Wow, your breath hold is amazing. Have you ever timed your breath hold?
Yeah, I'm like.
What's your
right
your
now? My static is around like 4.5 minutes.
Whoa.
Bloody hell. So I'm one of those people, like when I watch a film in the cinema and someone, that they're about to go for like, they have to survive, I always like try to hold my breath with them. I never last longer than like maybe 30, 40 seconds. and then you'll like audibly hear me gasp in the audience, like, so.
Do you do that thing where you go through a bridge or under a tunnel and you're like, you hold your breath until you drive out the other side?
No, I haven't done that one.
That's how I train.
Hypothetically, if you did, you'd smash it.
Yeah, thanks. So here's the thing. People don't realize this, but basically unless you have like a lung condition, anyone can hold their breath for 3 minutes easily. Mm-hmm. Like if you like, and that's without any training. And then as you start training, like for me to say, 4.5 minutes, actually it's like quite average or not even that great in the freedive world. So, I mean, everyone is capable of doing 3 minutes if they put their mind to it, pretty easily actually. So I don't train that much. Like I just like really the only time I'm training is when I go on a shoot, and that's like, not like finger quotes trading. But yeah, I mean like, I highly recommend like, freediving is becoming, a lot bigger recently. And it's really, really cool. I really enjoy it. And going and doing an actual like freedive training course, I highly recommend, because you learn a lot about your body. And it's very, very interesting. Like even the fact that, humans in a way we're all made to go into the water to some degree, because as soon as your face touches the water, like your nose goes under, you have this thing called the dive reflex, and your heart rate slows, so you have all these like kind of how your heart beats without you like physically trying to make your heart beat, right?
It's
so it's
instinctive.
Like these things just kind of happen within your body. And yeah, it's just very, very interesting.
One of my favorite shoots I've ever seen is the one you showed me where you were in Tulum in the cenote, and I'll play the clip if Josiah gives us permission. Otherwise, just picture it. Maybe Josiah's gonna be like, you can't use it.
You can use it.
I can use it. Sick. There's this man upside down in the cenote, but the camera's upside down too. So it's like a forced perspective of a man who's walking on this like very, extraterrestrial surface. But the coolest part was, you said this was an accident. You were using oxygen, and then the bubbles were getting trapped on the roof of the cenote. And at first you were like, damn it, like this is such a mess. But then eventually you said enough of it got trapped there that it just created that look.
Yeah, it looked like water puddles in the water, but it was actually like air puddles. It's kind of hard to wrap, like, because basically air's trying to rise, right? So you have this wall of this cave where the air's rising, but then it's forming into these little holes on the top of the cave, and it looks like water puddles, but you're underwater, so it doesn't really make sense. It's really interesting. Yeah.
So these shoots that we've kind of basically touched on, they're mostly in, to some degree, like open water or some sort of like lake or some sort of very deep water, not let's say a pool, or like let's say a place where you might have a little bit more control with lighting, or that more technical side. You're a little bit more at the mercy of the lighting on location.
I mean, it varies, right? So, I mean, I've shot underwater all over the world now. And water actually is a lot easier to shoot than over water as far as lighting goes. Because as soon as you get in the water, you already have a diffused environment. So even if it's like midday, the light's already diffused and pretty evenly. And the deeper you go, the more diffused it becomes. But then there's, of course, the deeper you go, the more color you lose, so there's all these different aspects to it. But as far as lighting goes, I actually really like how underwater looks, just because it's very, very, very natural looking, and very like you're not really getting these like blown out environments, or like this is really bright and this isn't really bright like you would get over land if you're shooting midday. Like everything's pretty even, unless there's like a light beam or something like that. But then that in itself is very easy to expose for, right? Because it's like it's just one place that is, and that's the purpose of the shoot. So
how do you color grade it? Because that's one of the challenges of like, I think red light doesn't go as far in the water, right. So you lose your reds the fastest.
Right. Yeah. So you lose red pretty quickly. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever scuba dived, but like if you go down 15, 20 feet and you cut yourself, I've done this a few times, like you'll cut yourself and you'll be looking at the blood coming out of your hand and it's blue and it's so weird.
Wow.
It's like, but you just like literally just completely lose that color spectrum. And so as far as editing goes, I mean, this could be like a 45-minute talk as far as like color theory and stuff like this, but editing wise, like I usually try my best to keep a natural looking blue, because obviously blue is going to be the dominant color. And then as far as like if I'm shooting with a model or something, like you want to have skin tones. The sunnier it is, the easier it is to compensate. So the more light that's shining onto the skin, the more colors that you can bring out. I've seen a lot of photographers try to color grade underwater stuff, and the first go-to reaction is to paint in the skin and bring out like oranges and stuff like this, but it's very, very easy to go overboard because my style and the way that I go about things is I want things to look as natural as possible and realistic as possible. And as soon as you start painting and things like this, like it's really easy to make it look like an edited photo, and it's like you don't. And that's like the goal for me, is like you don't want it to look edited.
You embrace the desaturation of reds. You just kind of lean into a white and blue look.
Yep. So like I mean, personally, I love a lot of stuff that I post ends up just being black and white because I love that look in the water. But it's just really depending on the look that I'm going for, the shoot itself. Like sometimes I will actually paint in some of the skin tones, but it's very, very minor to the point where like you wouldn't really know that I did, just because they look like Smurfs.
Right.
So like you don't necessarily want that. Like you don't want someone looking blue. But there's ways to go around editing and doing these things to make it so it looks a bit more natural. And I think that's the main goal, is natural as possible. So when it comes to color and stuff like this, it's like, view the place when you see it, and then when you're editing it, try and remember how it looked in person, and find that look within Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever it is that you use.
Seems like there's a bit of a barrier to entry, though, that you even talked about, is the cost. I mean, you have now what's probably closer to a $10,000 water housing. The one I have is a $2,000 one, but it's not quite safe for bringing down that deep.
Sure.
Now, if you were to look at the easiest way to get involved today, it would be a GoPro. But tell me, what could you do what you do today with a $400 action camera?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not to, what's the right word? Like convenience, not at the same convenience level, because now, I mean, for me, shooting in the water is basically the same as me shooting above water. I have access to everything that I need. It's the flick of a button if I need to change my ISO or aperture or whatever. It's just all right there. Like if I'm shooting with the action camera, it's a bit more involved in the sense of, okay, getting the settings right, whatever, because you can't really do it on the go. Like if I'm not mistaken, like with the action camera, you actually have to be above the water to be able to change settings and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's like you kind of have to be ready for the shot. Like there's no room for error. But a photo is a photo, right? So it's like you can definitely do things. Like it's like some incredibly talented photographers that I know only use their iPhone. And it's not like you're incapable of doing something, but it's definitely a lot harder, and you have a lot less opportunity for like when it gets into like the niche realm of like, let's say there's like this flowy fabric or something like this, and I want to make sure I capture every moment of it in high resolution. So it's like, yeah, you miss out on some of the niche things, but just in general, like you want to get a good photo, like, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, use what you have, right? It's like, if it's something that you really want to do, and you want to test out for yourself that it's something that you're capable of doing, for sure. Why not try it? You definitely aren't going to be able to do everything that you want to do, but you definitely can try, so.
Yeah.
Just I'm also curious because you've managed to work with the likes of Corona Beer, American Express, OnePlus, and Mercedes as well. What's the creative process there like in terms of like pre-planning? Most of the times when you're on land shoot, you've got the opportunity to go and do a recce. You kind of get an understanding of the location. Can take some like quick idea or concept shots. Underwater is going to be slightly more difficult. It's more time consuming. It's more expensive, arguably as well. So what's the creative process between saying, here's what we're after and being able to deliver on that?
I mean, it's quite similar, to be honest. Like, you just as much as you can go to a place on land and scope it out, you can do that in the water as well. Like if you have a specific spot that you like, or you want to check out lighting at this time of the day or what this looks like. I think it's very, very similar. I usually like my creative process, especially when I'm working with brands, is I come up with one or two concepts that I'll send them and be like, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And I'll usually create a mood board via like Pinterest or something. And I'll find these different aspects and give them, the mood that I'm going for. And then pitch it kind of in that way. But yeah, ultimately I don't really find that it differs. Sorry.
You're good.
I don't really find that it differs too much from land photography in that sense when it comes to pre-planning and planning and stuff like this. For me, the most difficult part has always been who it is that you're shooting, like particularly if I'm shooting with a model, right? Because underwater, like people above land, just because you're a model doesn't mean you can model in the water. Basically, is what I'm getting at. And it's very difficult, and because you're in a completely different environment. So I've been very blessed to meet incredibly talented models that I kind of go back and shoot with over and over again. Like they're like my go-to people. So if I have a bigger project particularly, I know who to hire, and I don't leave it up to chance of hiring someone random that I don't know.
Does that happen where you showed up to the shoot and they just could not perform?
Yeah, so there was one I did a perfume ad and got to the shoot, hired because it needed to be a male model, and the guy's an incredible freediver. He's actually like a world record holder, but he's just not a model, right? And so we did the whole like scuba tank thing, and rightfully so, he just wasn't comfortable doing it, and like wasn't really like, because I mean, you have to imagine you're 100 feet underwater. I had it where we were wearing normal clothes, so you had like jeans and a white button up on. So it's quite cold, and then you take your mask off. You can't see anything. Mm-hmm. You're 100 feet in the water, and you're completely left up to the mercy of this guy feeding you oxygen.
Bruh.
Right? So it's like so it's scary and it's uncomfortable. And if you've never done it before, then like obviously it's very hard to be comfortable right away. But I was on a time crunch, didn't have much time, so I asked one of my friends to do it. And yeah, it just didn't work out, and so the next day I just did it, like, and I had my friend take the photos for me, and so I ended up being like the underwater model, which was pretty hilarious.
You nailed it though. I know what photo you're talking about. It looks so good.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
it was for perfume ad.
Yeah, it was a perfume ad.
Yeah,
but,
super cool.
But yeah, for the most part, I have run into that issue before where you have like this plan and you have the shot in mind and you've run it over with everyone and everything looks good, and then you get in the water and then there's just like this uncomfortability in the water, and that's very difficult. So I'm much more apt to working with people who I've worked with before and who I know to be comfortable with me as well, because I think that's important also.
Any breath hold tips?
Breath hold tips? I don't know.
Just hold it.
Would be just hold it, man. Like I don't. That's
try not to die.
That's a.
Just give it a shot.
Just give it a try.
Breath hold tips. I mean, yeah. I guess for me, I always get better by doing it, right? So like, I mean, if free diving is something that interests you, just like go do it, and and then go to like the best tip I can get is go to a free dive course. Like I think those are amazing.
Yeah, they taught me quite a bit in that session.
Right. So it's like, I mean, I think that's the best thing you can do because then you actually like learn and then you have the knowledge to then continue to work on it.
It's a lot of confidence too, right? It's like a lot of people, they're the biggest thing holding themselves back.
Of course, yeah, of course.
3-minute breath hold may be the average person's ability, but they'll probably give up after 45 seconds.
Definitely. But then, it's confidence and comfortability. So the more comfortable you are, because for a lot of people, the water isn't a very natural environment that they're normally in. So, but once you become more comfortable in that environment, you quickly realize like, this is.
That's Robbie's habitat. He loves bathtubs.
I love
Always
a bath.
taking baths.
I love a bath.
Nice.
Love it.
Is bath photography a thing? Like, do you think he has a place for him in this industry?
Definitely in Bali. Like, you just throw some flowers in there and you're good.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
You're
In
sitting on a
my
market.
hair,
You're right.
On my nipples. Be beautiful.
Definitely gotta cover the nips.
Yeah, I mean,
free the nips though. Come on.
I mean,
Free the
someone's
nips,
going to
free the nips.
subscribe to your OnlyFans. It won't be me, but
yeah.
you'll find
and
your
so-
audience.
Only feet.
Yep.
Great breath work tip. Now, what about a photography tip specifically for underwater?
Photography tip for underwater.
Don't forget to take the lens cap off.
Literally.
Man, this is a tough one. Just like one thing. I would say if you plan on shooting with someone, particularly with a model, always make sure, especially if it's someone that it's like their first time being in the water, always make sure you're being affirmative. And I guess this goes for above or below, is like always be affirmative to the person that you're working with, because it's very, very difficult to look natural and act natural in the water. So being very nice and affirmative in the water goes that extra mile, because at the end of the day, when someone becomes comfortable, that's when they shine the most, right? So it's like if they're uncomfortable and you come up like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, it's like pretty jarring. And so
Excuse me.
was that me or you? Oh,
It's our next podcast. What? Okay, sorry. You were saying about the
right. So I think I mean, I guess it's not like a camera tip, but
No, that's a good one, though.
I think making sure there's a comfortable and safe environment for the people that you're working with goes a really long way into creating the best photos or video, because you're going to get the best out of them by creating a comfortable space for them, because being comfortable in the water is one of the most difficult things. And if you can be a part of bringing them that comfortability, then you've done your job well as a photographer.
Let me ask you this. If a viewer wants to get into underwater photography, but they don't have, thousands of dollars laying around, and they want to take it a step beyond the GoPro because maybe it lacks dynamic range, or maybe they just want a bit more, ability to control, what would be the next step up? Like, what is the next price tag?
Well, there's a couple different things, right? So, I mean, one thing I did was I bought an underwater film camera, and I think it was like $300. Of course, it's not digital; it's very different, but that's something that you can do. You can also, I believe it's called Sea Frog, is a company you can get, and they're actually built, to where you can go a bit deeper. They're not the. I have a few friends that have them and travel with them. They're very, very light and easy to get around.
It's a camera or a case?
It's a case.
Okay.
It's a case. And they make them for pretty much every camera model.
Huh.
I think they're around like anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500.
Okay.
And then there's other things that they have. I think the company is called Altex. And it's basically just like a big rubber seal that you put on your camera that has like a little dome on it.
Oh, like a Deca pack too.
Yeah, something along those lines. Altex is the one that I've seen to be probably one of the more safe options, I guess. I have a few friends that use those, and they're, you can pack it to where it's like this big, so it's easy to travel with. I've actually thought about getting one for myself when I'm traveling and don't want to carry around like a suitcase for my housing. But yeah, you just throw that in your bag, and it's basically like just like this rubber seal with like a little glass port that you put on the end of it, and a port on the back.
Those are cheap, right?
I mean, cheap as in, you know, it's cheaper than, you know, getting a $5,000 housing, but they're around like anywhere from $500 to $800.
Oh, it's still pricey.
It's still pricey.
Yeah.
I mean, anything underwater is going to be pricey. So,
Yeah.
but it is a substantially cheaper than going out and getting like a full blown housing.
Yeah. I was with Pierre Lambert diving in, where were we? In Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his A71 inside like one of those plastic Deca packs. So we were going down to like 10 meters, and he had it inside a $100 or $200 little plastic case. Really, I don't recommend it, because even though you might save money on your container, it's kind of like rolling the dice, and there's a chance that either a piece of sand got stuck in the dome port that you twist on, or anything at that depth. It takes so little for a leak to turn into an explosion of water, and so you can destroy your gear.
These things that I'm talking about right now, like these Altex Decapack things, they're not made to go deep at all. They're made to repel water.
Right.
So they're made to, like, you can dunk it in the water, but as you know, the deeper you go, the more pressure you have. So it's like these things aren't made to handle any sort of pressure. Same with the Aquatech. It's like it's not made to handle pressure. It's just made to make your camera water repellent.
Right.
So
yours is rated for how deep? The Nauticam.
I think the Nauticam, it's pretty crazy. It's like 120 meters or something like that.
Oh
so
my
like 300
God.
feet probably.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's made so you can basically take it wherever you want to go.
Does it have a little beeper when you get moisture inside of it?
It has a beeper. It has so like when it comes to housings, you pay for what you get, right? So it's like when I put my camera in the Nauticam, I feel safer with it in there than I do anywhere else. So it's like I have never once worried about my Nauticam leaking. And there's like a lot of safety measures to it. It has that beepy thing, and then it also has like a seal, so I can completely vacuum tight shut it. So like there's literally no way.
Oh, you vacuum it shut.
You vacuum it shut.
Wow.
So like literally the only way water could get in that thing is if I like ram it up against a rock and the glass breaks or something like that.
Wow.
So it's like
Cool.
It's they're pretty impenetrable. Yeah.
What about, because you obviously mentioned working with teams as well, what about communication? How does it work when something needs to change, something needs to differ, or there might be an emergency happening?
Sure. So with, I mean, that's more for the scuba diving realm. For free diving, you just, once you get up on the water, you tell them something, right? So it's like you just communicate that way, or it's like minor.
Go up to the top. That was rubbish.
Yeah. Or it's just like minor things. Like if you're free diving in the water and you like, you know, you just do a little hand signal and they kind of. But when you work with someone, people naturally kind of already know what you mean. And so it's like, if you're working with someone for the first time, it's like you could be doing something and they're like, what is this?
Every time I dive with people, they keep giving me one of these. What does that mean? Is that sea turtle or?
Sea turtle. But when you're scuba diving, for a lot of these shots, everything's pre-planned. So for the film I did, for example, like, we would go down and we would have like the 3 or 4 shots that we were going to try and do that day. And we would create hand signals for each shot that we were trying to do. So I would do my hand signal so the team would know exactly, because we ran it through on top. So we did the hand signal of, you know, whatever it's going to be. They would get into position. And if we did the scene and it didn't quite work out and we wanted to do it again, I would just do the same hand signal. We'd run it until I switched the hand signal. And so they know we have them memorized for what the next scene is going to be. And then beyond specific scenes, there's also general diving signals that everyone knows. Like, you know, this means go up, this means go down. You know, this means not good. You know what I mean? So there's just the general things that you already know as a diver that you would learn when you're taking classes to become a scuba diver.
What's the signal for someone sort of like floating on top of the water?
I think that's the signal in itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
It means they're ready for round 2.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you want to see more incredible dive footage, I mean, there's nowhere else to look. His Instagram account is the place to go. It's at Lost Creator Academy.
Yeah,
just kidding. But you should totally check his Instagram out. It's full of inspiration for.
Oh, sorry. Bloody hell.
He's a gentleman. He is a sophisticated man and an even better dive photographer. So yeah, we'll have his Instagram right here. It's at Josiah G. Gordon.
Josiah WG. It's okay.
WG Gordon.
WG. Not WG Gordon. It's just Josiah WG.
Yeah, he's a G. So check it out.
However,
That's why.
before we go, do you want to? Are you?
Oh yeah, we do have one last thing
Are
for you.
signaling for?
We've got 3 minutes left.
Okay, just re.
3 minutes is all we need.
Okay, 3 minutes
We
is all
have a
we need.
redemption story.
We have a redemption story. We know each other, Josiah, from having raced in Mexico, and you very famously were able to not only eat every single one of the bugs.
We got more.
You took a
Are you serious, bro?
Yes, you took a slash inside of a bottle whilst you were in a moving car as well. You're very known for that. But lastly, I got to say you were very, very famous for doing an incredible rendition of La Bamba on the race, which you famously also got a wah, 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 wah from the violinist. So we've got a little redemption story here for you.
He says very famously, is this the video that got like 5,000 views? On
No, I got like 3.
I have the lyrics here for La Bamba for you and some music. So I was hoping that you might be able
Dude,
to.
I'm not doing that.
To redeem yourself.
I'm not doing
Here you go.
Okay.
Okay. Because we absolutely all love this. So here you go. You ready?
No,
To give
I'm
it a
not
go.
doing this.
Are you ready?
And podcast ends.
Come on, Josiah. Redeem yourself. Come on.
Dude, I can't do this, man.